Hello and welcome to today's edition of Talking Hope. Really delighted to have Catherine Butcher from the Hope team with us this evening to share what's in the latest edition of our Hope for All magazine. So if you're looking for something to give out to your church, to your community this summer and beyond, take a listen because the Hope for All magazine is where it's at. Hi Kath, great to have you with us this afternoon. The sun is shining. I've had to close my blind to avoid glare on the screen. It finally feels as though spring might be here.
Yep, we've got daffodils in the garden. Yep.
Oh, lovely. Which means Easter and the summer is round the corner, which means it must be time for the latest issue of the Hope for All magazine.
Yep.
And you are the lady on our team who writes the magazine, manages it, is the expert. So I feel like we're in great hands as we talk about it this afternoon.
Well, I mean, magazines have been my dream. I started my first magazine when I was 7 and sold it to neighbours for charity. We had to copy them by hand in those days. And I've been doing magazines ever since. So the Hope magazine I love to do. And it is a magazine that I hope Christians will use for a conversation starter, because that's the vision. I don't think people become Christians because they're given a piece of paper. They become Christians because they know someone who is a Christian who tells them more about Jesus. So that's what I hope people will do with this. And when we put it together, then I'm looking for stories that are in the news. I mean, I trained as a journalist, so I'm always on the lookout for news. Some people might say we leave it right to the last minute to put it together, but then that's because I want it to be really topical and a bit prophetic, so that I'm always praying that God will give us some stories that somehow connect with people. So this time we've got a story about refugees. Now, they're not refugees from Ukraine, but they are refugees. And so I'm just trusting that that will touch people's hearts as they think about the refugees leaving Ukraine at the moment. So always looking for something prophetic, looking for something that will point people to faith, but not too much in your face. So we always used to, when I did my first Christian magazines, I used to think of, we're drip feeding, not drowning. We want to give people just enough hooks to think, there must be something to consider here, rather than drowning them in gospel, and definitely not using jargon, because jargon separates us as Christians. We use different words from our brothers and sisters in different denominations, so it's much better just to avoid all jargon. So I'm looking for something that's faith-based, that will cause people to ask questions, and is all about people, because it's people whose lives Jesus changes. So that's where we start from. So what grabbed you in this issue? What was the story that grabbed you the most in this current issue?
Oh, there were a few. I must admit, when I read about Love Welcomes, the refugee charity, that warmed my heart. I love that they were working with Banksy. I guess what I loved about that was, I'm a community evangelist on a new estate on the South Coast. So I am one of those people that tries to build a relationship with my friends and neighbours so that faith can be part of the conversation. And I know just how much the crisis in Ukraine and refugees are part of the conversation at the moment, and how much, especially coming through COVID, it's kind of like community spirit has grown. People want to help and want to do something. So a charity that is actually upcycling materials from when people have kind of left their war-torn and devastated countries, and that Banksy, who doesn't know about Banksy, so culturally relevant, has joined in. I think that's a brilliant story to share with my friends and neighbours. And if I had to pick another one, by background, I'm a historian. I don't know if that makes me a royalist, but I kind of am a bit of a magpie for any stories about the royal family, particularly in history. But the article about the Queen and her coronation, there was so much there that I didn't know. I found myself really absorbed by it. And I guess with the Platinum Jubilee coming up, my WhatsApp group on my street, we're already starting to plan our street party. So I'm thinking there's another hook into the magazine. We're talking about the Platinum, we're talking about the coronation. Oh, there's an article you might be interested in. And, if they read that big centre spread, they might then read some of the other articles as well.
Yes, and it was a toss-up. Should we put the Queen on the cover or not? And we decided not to. So we've got Emma Raducanu on the cover this time. And that's a bit of we'll have to see what God does, because this magazine will last through to Wimbledon. Mm-hmm. She will be there. She might go out in the first round, but it will be a story. And we've got other products. We've got our new Platinum Jubilee book, Our Faithful Queen, which we felt that if we put her on the front cover, the people who not really into being royal might not want the magazine. So we chose to put Emma Raducanu on the cover. And the story that she features in is an extended feature on what does it mean to wear a cross. So we've taken lots of famous faces, because that's what we often do. We want people to see people that they identify with. My dad doesn't recognize any of them, but a lot of people would recognize the people that we feature. And I've picked people who wear a cross and asked the question, what does it mean to wear a cross? Now, I've no idea what Emma thinks of Jesus, because she's never said, but her mum and her dad both come from countries where Christians have been persecuted, and they moved to Canada and then they moved here. So who knows what their story is, because they haven't told anyone, but she wears a cross. And then I find lots of other people who wear a cross from time to time, but some of them have been very definitely not Christians. So for example, David Bowie asked to be buried as a Buddhist. And so we need to, when we're wearing a cross, is it just jewelry? Is it making a statement? Is it something that I'm wearing a cross? I've been wearing a cross since I was licensed as a reader in the Church of England. But it doesn't make you a Christian.
No.
So that's why we chose that particular cover feature. But yeah, I love the story about Love Welcomes and the Syrian refugees. And then we've had a theme going through about people who are facing difficulties. So we've got Katie Piper, and she was the young model who had acid thrown in her face, and how she recovered and how her faith has made a difference. And then we've got a cricketer, Marnus Labuschagne, and his success story as a cricketer. And when we started writing that story, the writer who suggested it to me said, well, he's not much in the news at the moment. And then he got the very best season ever, and is now someone who's in the news. So I'm trusting that that's what God did to help me with the magazine becoming more topical. I'm not a sports person, really don't know those, but I always give the story to someone who really knows the subject. And so it's got lots of detail for those sorts of people who love the sporting aspect of the magazine.
Oh, that's the prophetic edge again, isn't it?
Well, I hope so. So you're going to be taking the magazine and you're going to be doing what with it? What will you do?
So we have some in our church, people that come on a Sunday. We also run an intergenerational wellbeing cafe on a Tuesday. We're literally weeks old to our oldest is 95-year-old. And they really like the magazines. They sit at their coffee tables, they read the magazines. The team are kind of primed about what's in the magazine. So they're ready for some of the conversation starters. Yeah. And then I hand them out personally, depending on how the conversations go. Again, the cross feature is so helpful to someone like me, because if I see somebody wearing a cross, that for me is an invitation to ask the question. I'm the person that usually says, oh, I can't help but notice that you're wearing a cross. Why are you wearing a cross? Sometimes I wear a cross, sometimes I don't. I know in my walking group, if I'm wearing a cross, it has generated a conversation. So that article is a brilliant hook for someone like me. And I guess that's our hope, isn't it, Catherine? We know that churches give these out door to door. Some churches use them as their parish magazines. Sometimes they're given out through food banks. I know some people that give them out through their toddler groups and their messy churches. But our ideal is if Christians on their streets, connecting with their friends and neighbours, or the people they meet at work or in their everyday, are handing them out as a part of their conversation, as a conversational tool, because it links with a conversation, a relationship that they're already having, that they've already got.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so if people want to get hold of these magazines, okay, how can we get hold of them?
Well, they're in the Hope shop, so Hope Together hopeforall.org.uk/shop. And there's also a website, which is hopeforall.org.uk, where you can find videos that link to some of the stories. So you can see the person who started Love Welcomes explaining what happened and how she does that. And other features. You've got Prince William having a conversation about mental health, and various different stories are highlighted, and you can read them as well as watching a video. And then you can enter the competitions, because we always like to have a bit of competition and a bit of interaction, so that the readers can have an opportunity to win one of the books that we've featured in the magazine. So you can do that on that website.
Yeah, and this time we've got Mark's Gospel to give away. We've got some of Katie Piper's book. We've got some of the Wellbeing Journey book, and we've got Trudy Makepeace's book as well. So lots and lots of books. And I know I find that website useful, because sometimes if I'm not sure to how someone would respond to the whole magazine, I might send them a link to a page because we've been talking about something. And if they like it, I'll say, oh, actually, I've got it in a magazine, you know, would you like that? So it gives you a kind of first step in, because we're used to sharing things digitally these days and looking at a web page. It's very non-threatening, very easy to do. And then you can give people something more.
That's right. And they can flick through the magazine on the website as well, because it's there as a flick through. Yeah. So there's lots of different ways that you can share the magazine on your social media, or just giving it out to a friend, or posting it to someone. You have to fold it to put it in an envelope, but you could even post it to a relative, friend, or someone that you know that you feel would benefit from finding out some hope in this coming season.
All this for only 10 pence per magazine, plus postage and packing. Yes. I think my challenge to people would be this. Maybe you've never given out the Hope for All magazine before. I think sometimes when we make ourselves available to God, he provides the opportunity. Mm-hmm. So you might want to start by just ordering half a dozen magazines and asking God who's he put on your heart to give them to. And I'm fairly sure that God will then provide the opportunities and the conversations where you'll be talking about cricket and thinking, oh, there's an article about cricket, or about wearing a cross, or the Platinum Jubilee. So there you go. There's my little challenge. If you've never bought one before, buy a few, see how they go down, and I bet you'll be back for more.
Great.
Thank you, Kath, so much for talking to us today.
Lovely to chat.
So check out the Hope for All magazine on our shop. It's available now. It will take you to Easter and beyond. Emma's on the front cover in her tennis gear. Definitely will take you as far as Wimbledon and into the summer holidays. All for 10 pence a copy, plus postage and packaging. Take care. God bless.